What's up, y'all? Sparty here, and I want to do a quick video pretty much making a rant about Samsung. And this is more of an emotional thing. Probably some of the deepest that I went in on Samsung. And it's basically due to the fact that the Note line is no longer unique. It no longer feels like the phablet to get from Samsung. It no longer feels like the power user phone that you could get, the best one that you can get. And as I've said before, the Note line is my favorite to come from. The Note line is my favorite to come out of Samsung ever. I never liked Samsung phones. I thought that, they were just laggy pieces of crap for the longest time. And while I was going through that phase of pretty much following the pack, I also used Samsung phones during that time, and it kind of furthered my belief and confirmed my suspicions when it came to, Samsung phones being, not the best optimized. I'll just say that so I could sound less like a fanboy. But every year since, the Galaxy S2, which is when the first Galaxy Note came out, every single Galaxy Note has always been better than every single S-line phone. They've always had a different build. They've always had, the latest and greatest chipset. They've always had bigger batteries, bigger screens. They've always had the best of the best when it came to Samsung and also when it came to tech. And it went from the Note 1, the Note 2, the Note 3, which was my first Note, to the Note 4, which I never had, but was probably the last uniquely built Samsung phone. If you had the V10, it was kind of built in a similar fashion where it had a grippy back and it had the aluminum or metal side rails. I'll just say that, the metal sides. And it just felt great. I've held the Note 4 before and I loved it. I love the build of that phone. I've never had it. The first legit Note that I bought was the Note 5. And I love that phone too, but it just felt like a bigger S6, which I also had within that year. And it's like Samsung conformed. People say that they grew up. People say that they're competing. But honestly, I don't feel that way. I feel that they sold out. I feel that they just went to this, philosophy of making a phone sexy, but not operable in any sort of like decent way. Now, don't get me wrong. The S7 is a great phone. It is. But the issues that I have with this phone are with its software and how it's optimized with its hardware. I can't record with this phone for any amount of time for more than 10 minutes without it getting super hot. Just in 1080p 60 frames per second video, right? Whereas with my V20 and even my G6, which glass is more prone to getting hot, it's just more that it's more optimized in all of its cases. Now with the S8 and S8 Plus, I commend Samsung for going for a different route with its display. But sometimes I feel they just one-upped LG for the sake of one-upping them. The LG G6 has an 18:9 display. It has a 5.7-inch display. It has the Snapdragon 821, right? It has all the stuff, I guess, that you would like, aside from the chipset if you're an enthusiast. What did Samsung do? The Galaxy S8, the base Galaxy S8, not the S8 Plus, 5.8-inch display, 18.5 by 9 display, a quote-unquote infinity display, which honestly is not something that's ergonomic in my opinion. And it Snapdragon 835, but it has a smaller battery. So it's whatever. It's their baseline phone. They put a bigger screen on their baseline phone, but gimped in other respects. It doesn't have a dual camera for one, which a lot of people want, regardless of what you say. Of what a lot of like Samsung people say, like, I just want one great camera. Yeah, but you're the minority in that sense. I'm not necessarily saying that dual cameras are the way to go for everybody, since everybody wants to adopt the same thing that, Apple does, with it just a more zoomed in version, a more zoomed in picture. But honestly, more power to you if you like that. I'm not gonna hark on you for that. But my issue with Samsung now is that I don't see them pushing hardware like they used to. I just see them doing more of the same but better. That's pretty much what they did with the camera with the S8 from the S7. But then add an extra button because we want to push an AI assistant that nobody wants. And it's like, I don't necessarily want the old Samsung back, because if you want the old Samsung back, I think you're forgetting the bad that they've had back then. Cheating in benchmarks, which is another reason why I don't mess with benchmarks. Not having uniquely... What the fuck? Sorry, I pushed down on my S7 and it felt like it just popped. I don't know what happened. But the phone doesn't feel as unique as it used to be. Whereas the G6, sure, they're built the same. They have the same, glass on glass with a metal frame design and stuff like that. But the G6 is thicker. It feels better to hold in the hand due to its thickness. It doesn't just feel like, an S6.5, despite the fact that a lot of stuff they brought back from the S5 to the S6, and I commend them for that. But again, my issue isn't with that. It's with the simple fact that they just don't feel like they need to innovate anymore. Excuse me. Bigger screens were coming on smaller phones. LG did this before they did. Bigger screens were coming on smaller phones already. The G2 is a test of time where that was a thing, where this was a 5.2-inch display. This was a 5.2-inch display on pretty much the same footprint, aside from it being slightly taller as an S7. The G2 stands the test of time in that regard, because this was probably the first phone that did that and that thought of that. And LG has iterated on that in the past, making the phone slightly bigger, but it still felt good to hold in the hand. Like the G4, it's way bigger than the G2. Well, not way bigger, but it is. It's wider and it's taller. It's wider and taller than the G2. And of course, the camera wants to focus on my tripod in the background. But as you guys can see, it's bigger and taller, but it still feels good to hold in the hand. It still feels good to, do this, swipe, do this, and do all of this. It feels good to do that. Whereas with the S8 Plus, it just feels it feels weird to have to, go to the upper right to do your fingerprint. It feels weird to do that. And while I'm recording this video, I'm seeing if my V20 is getting hot. And it's not. It's actually staying relatively cool. And it's like, Samsung fans, I get your sentiment of wanting AMOLED displays, of wanting what Samsung basically says is the best of the best. The next big thing is here, is their tagline, right? Which is what their thing was when the Note came out. And this is coming from a Note fanboy. You don't always have to praise the company that you enjoy their products. You don't. Because A, you're giving them your money, and B, they're not necessarily doing anything for you other than giving you a phone to play with. They're not paying your phone bill. They're not paying your light bill. They're not doing any of that shit. So getting into battles online over phones is not really, it's not the best thing to do because it's not, it's stupid. But this is just coming from me because I have a passion for this shit. And I've seen Samsung grow from the original Galaxy S, the original Note, to now. And it just seems like they just gave up. Honestly, that just feels like what they've done. Where LG and Huawei and to some extent, I guess, HTC, and I'm not saying that to shit on HTC. I love their phones as well. Just to get this out of the way, I love every phone from every manufacturer. It's just that some I enjoy more than others. And I can't necessarily say that I would take the S7 over the G5 from last year. I wouldn't necessarily say, and they also removed the IR blaster, something that they pioneered for a while. And sure, it may be due to the fact that it's water resistant, but the S5 was water resistant, had a removable battery and an IR blaster. So it just feels like they're gimping features for the sake of gimping features now. And it's like, do I understand that not everybody uses IR blasters? Yes. But when you make a Galaxy Note, which was their power user phone, and to an extent still is, I guess. It's just that when you do things like remove IR blasters, which LG also has done with the G6, when you remove that feature, a cutout that's not necessarily the biggest in the world, hell, it's smaller than a headphone jack, like, I just don't see the point in saying a phone is a power user phone if it just has one more thing than your S8 Plus, which is two things, I guess, which I'm not going to count, which may be a slightly bigger display. Like the S8 Plus has a 6.2 inch display. The Note 8 is rumored to have a 6.3 inch display. I'm like, that's not enough of an upgrade for me to go like, oh, I want the S8. I want the Note 8. Sure, I enjoy the S Pen. I love the S Pen a lot. That feature is great, but it's just more that when it comes down to what I've loved about the Note line forever, I don't just think, oh, S Pen. And that's what a lot of Note users have freaking just dialed it down to ever since Samsung has slowly been gimping features, When I look at the Note, I see Samsung's Vanguard phone, or at least I used to see that. And honestly, it just is to the point where I'm just like, I'm not too hyped about the Note 8. I'm optimistic about it. I hope that it can do, I hope that it can be Samsung's best phone, best Note. And people say that's the Note 7, but obviously I couldn't get the Note 7. And with the Note Fan Edition coming out, that even more entices me to get that. But who knows if that'll ever come to the States or how limited it will be. So at this point, it's the Note 8, man. And it's like, I hope they do right. I really do hope they do right. For me personally, they may do right for you, and that's totally fine. But I'm just saying, for me, this is an opinion. This isn't something that I'm writing off as fact or putting down in the smartphone Bible that Samsung has conformed to the Apple ways of thinking where everything has to be streamlined despite the fact that their software is not streamlined. There's just something about what Samsung is doing that's turning me off from the products. And honestly, I wish they'd go back to Exynos. I wish they'd stop doing Snapdragon, because honestly it's worked better for them. But I know why they haven't gone back to just Exynos. They don't play well with certain LTE bands for certain carriers, which is fine. If you want to go Snapdragon for that, cool. But then again, make your chip work for every band for every carrier. You're the biggest or second biggest smartphone manufacturer in the world. For you to not make your chipset compatible with everything is, it's not right. I guess it's stupid. It's like a minor setback that they could easily fix but don't want to fix. They'll make it more powerful, sure. They'll make it more efficient, sure, but not make it compatible with every other band just so you don't have to use a Snapdragon, so you can use the better chip for your phone. It's whatever, though. I'm not going to get too worked up. But yeah, that's it. Let me know what you guys think about this. Please, in the comments, don't get super angry at me. Because it's like I said, this is my opinion. This is how I feel about Samsung. I feel they sold out. I feel they just conformed to the norm. And sure, while glass is pretty, it's not something that I necessarily would look at and be like, oh, I want that on a phone. I need that on a phone. Wireless charging is something I don't need on a phone. A lot of the stuff that they've pushed is stuff I don't need on a phone. And honestly, that's it. But yeah, this is Sparta. Thank you guys for watching. Apologies for the bad lighting. I don't have my light on right now. Pretty much going with natural lighting right here. But yeah. Again, let me know what you guys think. Thanks for the support. Thanks for watching. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.